Today is the VRBO Citrus Bowl between number 15 Iowa and number 22 Kentucky.
PFANATTIC, the fanatic where we keep it.
Welcome into the Fanatic Sports Channel for sports fans by sports fans. It's your boy Coach I. Where my dogs at? All right, man. We continuing on with this bowl preview series. Today is the VRBO Citrus Bowl between number 15 Iowa and number 22 Kentucky. And today we brought back Fanatic alumni, Coach Hess. He's going to be representing the Iowa Hawkeyes. Let's go ahead and bring Coach in so we can go ahead and get started in this video. What's going on, Coach?
I am not doing too bad, Coach. I just getting ready for an interesting bowl game because Iowa is one of those teams where it depends on where you look and what games you watched, whether what type of Iowa team could show up in this game. Because even Iowa fans are kind of like, what Iowa team are we going to see come
crazy,
January
man.
1st?
And man, I'm telling you, just watch it. Just purely as a fan watching both teams, I see a lot of similarities. And I know not to be, poo-pooing on either of these teams, but this kind of reminds me of the matchup between Georgia and Michigan, just with a little bit less talent, because both teams are physical, run style, play good defense, and I think it should end up being a good game. So with that said,
I think it'll be interesting too. Plus the fact you also got to look at it as both head coaches have a lot of connections, considering Mark Stoops, the head coach of Kentucky, is a former Iowa Hawkeye. So there's even more connections there, which I thought was kind of cool.
I did not know that. In their coaching careers, they got a lot of similarities. We'll get into that here in a minute. Before we get started, if you are out there and you liking these bowl previews, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, man, so we can keep these previews coming for you. Today, we're going to be talking about some statistics between Kentucky and Iowa, and then we'll talk about both of those coaches, Kirk Ferentz and Mark Stoops, two of the most tenured coaches in the nation. We'll get into that as well, and then we'll preview the Iowa versus Kentucky game, and then get Coach Hess on record with some predictions, even though this bowl season is very unpredictable because we still have some time between now and then. So just to start out, Kentucky's offense is scoring 33 points a game, but Iowa's only giving up 19 points a game. I know at the beginning of the season, through like 4 to 5 games, Iowa might have had the statistically highest rated defense. If it wasn't them, it was either Georgia or Penn State, but it was definitely in the top 3. Kentucky is averaging 430 yards a game, but Iowa's only giving up 327. Kentucky's pretty balanced. They're over 200 yards rushing a game, 225 passing yards a game. Iowa's rush defense is only giving up 114 yards a game, though, and 213 in the air. Now, on the other side of the ball, Iowa and Kentucky, kind of like the Kentucky defense and Iowa's offense kind of matches up. I mean, Iowa's scoring about 23, Kentucky's giving up 22. Iowa averages almost 300 yards a game. Kentucky gives up 337. Same thing with the rush and the pass. So I know you've been watching Iowa all year. How are you feeling about the Iowa, just in general, about the Iowa defense going against this Kentucky offense?
This will be really interesting because the one thing I tell a lot of people, the one thing that scares me whenever Iowa steps onto the field every time, especially the way their defense is, it's a very bend, don't break, very, very basic, very simple defense. There's not a lot of flash and frill. There's not a lot of blitzing. There's not a lot of exotic coverage. 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, or 2 linebackers with kind of a safety-ish linebacker nowadays, especially with all of the spread teams that they play. And they sit in front. They don't allow big plays. They play usually stout defense. Their defensive line usually kind of eats up blocks, and then their linebackers are let to roam and make tackles. So all year, this Iowa defense has been stout against the run, against the pass. They give up some yards, but they don't give up a lot of big plays. They tend to keep everything in front of them, and they're opportunistic as all get out. They led the country in interceptions. You have Riley Moss on the corner, who's got several interceptions for touchdowns, especially 2 in that first game against Indiana. So this is an opportunistic defense. This is a defense that likes to cause turnovers. They get after the football. They tackle well. They don't make a ton of mistakes. They don't beat themselves. What I've seen of Kentucky with Will Levis at the quarterback, this is the one thing that scares me, because when plays break down, Iowa's defense sometimes has trouble with mobile quarterbacks. We saw it. We saw it in the game against Nebraska with Smothers. If Smothers got out of the pocket, his speed and ability to make plays gave Iowa fits all day long. And we saw Will Levis when he played at Penn State. So we know a little bit about what he brings. The question will be is what does Kentucky throw a few weird different formations? Do they throw a few trick plays? Because that's what's killed Iowa a couple of times, is plays where the corners read something in the backfield and then get beat over top.
You hit it right on the head. Just watching Iowa, they definitely, made you go all 80 yards, 75 yards, whatever it is. No big plays. You just had to earn it through, driving down the field. But at the head of both of these teams, like I said earlier, are two of the most tenured coaches in the biz. Kirk Ferentz being the most tenured coach in Division I. Of course, that means he's the most tenured in the Big Ten as well. He's in his 23rd year. He's 178 and 109. He's 9-8 in bowl games. Mark Stoops is the second most tenured coach in the SEC behind Nick Saban. He's in his 9th year in Kentucky. And he's 58-53, and he's 3-2 in bowl games. Mark Stoops is also good for the 12th most tenured coach in Division I. That just shows you, after 9 years, how volatile the coaching carousel is in this world we live in today, man. So I think, both coaches to me are kind of similar. Like I say, they consistent programs, physical at the line of scrimmage. I just don't see a lot of differences in that. They both well respected. Like I say, Kirk Ferentz in his 23rd year. That's crazy in this day and age that he's got 23 years at one school.
Well, the thing I've said to a few people, it's like, in the SEC, what Mark Stoops has done is impressive, because you kind of have to admit it. The SEC kind of has this, in 3 years you need to be competitive
For real,
or you're out. I mean, look at Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee can't keep a coach because of the fact that they can't stay competitive. So you got to give Stoops a little bit of credit, Kentucky, of what he's done in a volatile, very difficult environment in Kentucky. That, I mean, most people didn't expect him to be successful. Kentucky was the outcast program of the SEC, let alone the SEC East. So, and the crazy thing about it is watching Coach Ferentz is that he has a lot of people would say was 23 years and he hasn't won a national championship. But I also say this is, we're in a state that doesn't produce a lot of superstar athletic talent. I mean, we just went through the recruiting thing, and I'll be honest, there are not a lot of recruits in the state of Iowa that are super 5-star caliber players. It's just not there. What he has to do, and I've said this, he has to develop 4-star players. He doesn't recruit 4-star players very often because they don't come around Iowa very often. I mean, I can't tell you how many people in Iowa are super excited that Xavier Wampa, the number 1 kid in the state, or safety out of Altoona, Iowa, just west of me here in Des Moines, they're so excited that he came to Iowa, because normally we see these type of big superstar talents leave for the big programs like Michigan, like USC, like Ohio State. So keeping a big talented guy here in the state is something we're not used to. Let's be honest, most Iowa fans are not used to these superstar players coming to Iowa. So it's a developmental thing. It's one of those where we're going to win national championships because we have all these superstars in the state of Iowa. We don't. We have to develop them. So there's almost a little bit of a different look at this Iowa program, because he has brought stability. And then the other scary part is think about this, is that Iowa has only had 2 head coaches since 1979. 2. Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz.
Like you said, you touched on something else about the development. And one of my good friends, we always talk about Kentucky and Mark Stoops. He's the same way. And I think what Iowa and Kentucky have done in this day and age of win right now is they recognize who they are and what the coaches are. And they say, okay, because these two states, like you said, don't produce, like Kentucky may produce a little bit more than Iowa, but there's not a lot of 5 stars coming out of the state of Kentucky for football, maybe basketball, but not football. And so they say, okay, every 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, when these guys have been coached up, now they're juniors, seniors, now we're going to make a run. And if you look at Kentucky, especially, every 3 to 4 years, Mark Stoops makes a run at the SEC East. I mean, now granted, Georgia's always been standing in his way, and 1 year Florida, but that's how it is. And Iowa's kind of the same way, but it's a consistent program. And I think if more schools took that approach, they wouldn't be in the dump. So it's like you have teams like you said, Tennessee, not to just pick on them, but you have a year where you might be, I don't know, 9-3 during the regular season. Then you have 3 straight years of 6-6 or worse. And it's a lot of Power 5 schools going through that same thing because they keep USC Trojans. I mean, they used to be the pick of the litter, but now look at them, they can barely make a bowl game. And I don't even know if they made the bowl game this year. So, so that's what I'm saying. So Iowa and Kentucky have realized, look, it's better to be consistent than to be like, a Haley's Comet. Every Haley's Comet, we're good. So I think that's how that works out.
Well, and I have a little fun with this. I'm going to bring up something, and anybody that watches this is that one of our neighbors, Nebraska Cornhuskers, and we'll do this really quickly, is that when they fired Bo Pelini, who was averaging 9 wins a season, one of the athletic directors said they were too close. He was looking at where Iowa was, and he didn't like the fact that Nebraska barely beat Iowa that year in the Black Friday game. Fast forward 7 years. Since that firing of Bo Pelini, Nebraska has not beat Iowa.
Wow.
And they have not had a winning season. They have not had a winning season since then. But it's really kind of funny that it just shows you that sometimes you need to kind of make sure that when you make a decision, you know everything that can happen. And there's tons of Iowa fans that I see every week that are like, we need to modernize. We need to do this. And I go, you don't understand that it's not that simple.
True.
If you bring the spread offense to Iowa, it's going to be difficult to get the athletes and the abilities that you're going to need on the outside, let alone the running backs and the quarterback in Iowa. It's just not there. Yes, a lot of high schools are starting to go to that system, but it still doesn't fit the way the kids that are coming out of the state. So I think that the one thing I got to give Kirk is that he has done the right thing. He's become a developmental program. He teaches the kids correctly, and then he goes from there. I mean, and I think a lot of Iowa fans see it as every 5 to 6 years we have a superstar team. We have a team. The 2015 we go undefeated. Yes, we lose to Michigan State in that heartbreaker and then get smashed by Stanford. 2002 we have a great year. 2009 we have a great year. So sometimes he gets senior classes that just play well. But the other years, they're 8-4, they're 7-5, they're 9-3. They're always going to bowl games because they're winning football games that they need to. And that, I think, sometimes is misunderstood in the college game, especially in certain conferences. No offense to your beloved SEC and your Georgia Bulldogs. That's the problem that I see, is that the goal is always national championship in the SEC. I think for some schools, they really need to focus on make sure that you're consistently winning and you're making bowl games, because you're going to make a better program if you get those bowl practices in. Like Iowa's a young team. They have a lot of freshmen that I think are going to be better and better and better over the next few years because of these bowl practices that they're getting for the Citrus Bowl.
That's true. They definitely get a lot of practice. We just had at Georgia's sidebar, Oscar Delp, the number 2 tight end in the nation, he joined the day after signing. He was already graduating and going to Georgia for practice. They don't get to play, but at least they get those reps in practice if they're getting in. If nothing else, they get mental reps. So you're right.
At least the play.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, now the surrounding environment dictates some of that, and it doesn't help when Nick Saban's winning, championships every year, and then Kirby comes in there. He's like the recruiting Zen master, and he's getting to the playoffs. So that kind of puts pressure on other people. But like you said, if they could just remember to stay in their lane, because I talked to a South Carolina guy, did a preview of their bowl game, and he said if South Carolina went 10 years and averaged 8 wins, he'd be okay with that. And if everybody was like that, then so many of these coaches may or may not get fired all the time. So That's just that's a good tidbit you put out there on that, man. And let's go ahead and jump in the actual game, man. This Citrus Bowl game. Let's talk about the bowl experience first. Iowa has played in 33 bowls, and doing these bowl previews, I've said it on the previous videos that when I look up the bowl records for most of these teams that I'm doing these previews on, most of them have losing records. Iowa's played in 33 bowls and they're 17, 15, and 1. So they're like, I think they're like the second team out of all these bowl previews I've done that have a winning record in bowl games or whatever. Their last bowl was the 2019 Holiday Bowl, it was a win over USC. That's Trojans, that is. Kentucky Bowl, they played in 20 bowls. They're actually 11-9 in bowl games. And their last bowl was the 2020 Gator Bowl win versus NC State. So now we're up to the 2021 Citrus Bowl. So both of these teams, man, like I said, I got respect for both of these programs, and I think this is going to be a good game. What's your initial thoughts on how this game is going to go?
As I kind of said earlier, I want to know what Iowa offense shows up.
Yeah.
I'm not so much worried about the defense. I think these last few weeks are going to be good. They're going to let their bodies heal. They're going to be able to sit down and they're going to be able to watch game film. But I want to know what Brian Ferentz is going to do. Is he going to try to pull out any special things for this game? Because again, the quarterback issue has been an issue all season. I mean, it's well documented. Anybody that watches Iowa knows the quarterback issue has been an issue. But their quarterback issue has been an issue because of the offensive line, especially earlier in the year. It is a very young offensive line. Outside of Tyler Linderbaum, the best center in the country, and I will argue with anybody on that. I think he's the best center in the country. He's rated CFP, one of the ranking groups have them as the highest ever center they've ever graded out of college. Besides him, the rest of them are freshmen, sophomore. They're young players. They don't have a ton of starts under their belts. So they went through a lot of growing pains this year, especially in that 2-game losing streak where they lost to Purdue and Wisconsin in back-to-back weeks. They struggled.
Okay.
They had trouble holding their blocks. They had trouble keeping Petrus upright. In the 4-game win streak after that 2-game loss, they had their flip of quarterback where they went to a little bit more of a mobile quarterback in Padilla. But the issues were still there. The inconsistency throwing the football has been all year, plus the fact we have young receivers. Our 2 best receivers are freshmen.
Okay.
And unfortunately, with Tyrone Tracy hitting the transfer portal and looking like he's going to go to Purdue, and then our number 1 running back, Tyler Goodson, a kid from Georgia, actually declared for the draft. So our top running back, one of our receivers are not going to be there. So our starting tailbacks are going to be freshmen, except for our senior Ivory Kelly Martin, who's been out with injury. So there's not a lot of good vibes coming from the Iowa offense. Iowa defense, as I've seen, Kentucky occasionally will turn the ball over, which is Iowa's dream, especially the way this defense is. It's very, like I said, it's very, very opportunistic. They will take back an interception. They will scoop and score. They will strip. I just see this game being just a slugfest. If Mark Stoops has kept his team like I've seen, and of the highlights that I've seen, this is going to be a slugfest. This is not going to be a high-scoring game. This is going to come down. I hate to say it. This could come down to field position and special teams. And some football people, they never like hearing that. They never like hearing that a game comes down to special teams. But I'm a little more confident as an Iowa fan when it comes to special teams. Our punter is one of the best in the country, an Australian from Tory Taylor, who's one of the best in the country. And then Shudak, who is our field goal kicker, can kick for days. I swear he can kick 60-yard field goals easily if he really wanted to. But the biggest question I have is how does the offense go? That'll be my big thing there for that. And with Kentucky, do they pull out any tricks too? Because that's been something that's got the defense a little bit, is those trick plays.
Now, do you guys have any opt-outs that are major contributors to the team?
Tyler Goodson would be the only opt-out, because he decided to go to the draft. I will refrain my judgment on that personally. I know it's, again, I'm one of those, and I'll say this, and again, I understand this is this kid's decision, and I respect his decision. I just don't know who's giving him his advice because personally, I think he's undersized. I don't know if he's going to get drafted. That's my worry. My biggest worry is that he's come out, he's gotten somebody in his ear saying, "Hey, you got a chance to be drafted," and
Okay.
then he doesn't. That's my scare. That's my worry about him. I think the kid can make an NFL roster. I think he's got enough talent. The question is, will he get drafted? Because I don't know if you really should come out early if you're not going to get drafted.
That's
That's again, and that is a personal opinion, and everybody is different. I hate the opt-outs. I think the opt-outs, honestly, I think the opt-outs are just telling me you're scared of getting hurt, plain and simple.
well,
One guy,
yeah, yeah,
Jake Butt, gets hurt, and now all of a sudden everybody's worried about getting hurt.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't. You've played 12, 13 games during the season and you haven't gotten hurt. One game and you're worried about getting hurt.
That's true. That's true.
It's a little suspect to me personally. But again, everybody's different.
Hey, everybody is different, man. I heard some things like some of the NFL teams maybe, if it's not the playoffs or the championship, kind of encouraging it. Even to the fact somebody told me the other day that some colleges might be, kind of encouraging it for high school kids to, skip their postseason. I was like, this is getting ridiculous now. But, I feel like, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence. If you're a top, if it's, I personally, as a fan, want to see everybody play because that's just a selfish reason. I want the game to be really good. Back, before everybody start opting out, like Iowa and Kentucky, if everybody's playing, what could be one of the best bowl games to watch. Now when you got like, especially, opting out like right before the game, like you say, I'm gonna play, and then you opt out right before the game. It's like now you leave your team kind of like, whatever. But if you're a top 3 draft pick, if that's the grade that you're getting, I see. I mean, some of these kids need the money, and like you said, it is the fear of getting hurt, whether that's right or wrong. So as a fan, personally, selfishly, I would like to see everybody stay in, but everybody's situation is different. But with that said, are you worried about on defense, stopping Kentucky? Because Kentucky's going to grind. They're going to, they want to grind the ball. They want to, I mean, Will Levis can make plays, but they want to get that ball to Chris Rodriguez. And Kentucky fans, if you're watching this, if Chris Rodriguez is opted out, which I haven't heard that he has, but maybe
I haven't heard anything.
like
Either.
maybe they know more than we do, or anybody key to this offense, because that's what Kentucky is going to try to do. And like you said earlier, the Iowa defense is opportunistic, but they're not gonna be like, over aggressive trying to run blitz or pass blitz or anything else. So is that any of that, concern you?
A little bit. Again, it's the skill and athleticism that we don't see as often. Again, I've even seen people pop up about the Big Ten West, Big Ten East, after the recruiting day. The fact that only one West team was in the top 8 of the recruiting classes, and I hate this discussion. I think it's ridiculous because you're taking a recruiting class that means absolutely nothing because 15 of these kids could come in and never play a single down for their school. Yet that's the reason why Ohio State is number 1 in the Big Ten. So I think it's a ridiculous moniker. When it comes to it, the biggest question will be is how does Phil Parker approach this game? Does he get super aggressive? If he can't get to Will Levis in the pass game, he will blitz. He doesn't like to because he likes having his defensive line so he can sit back in coverage and let his linebackers make plays. But if he can't get home in games where they struggle to get to the quarterback and passing downs, then he gets more aggressive. Then he starts dialing up the blitzes. That's when Iowa is the most vulnerable because then he has to play man on man. And sometimes when you get a good wide receiver, like when we played Purdue and David Bell, he absolutely tore us apart. If the ball can get out, sometimes the way Iowa's defense is structured, it's hard for them to cut it off. So this is a little concerning for me just because, as you said, Kentucky likes to keep the ball. They like to win time of possession, just like Iowa. These two teams are scary similar.
They are.
So that's why I said this could be a game. This really could be a game where one turnover could flip the script on this game completely if it happens. So that's why who dominates time of possession, who wins the running game, and how does the turnover battle go? because if this is one of those where Iowa gets 2 turnovers and has a pick 6 and a scoop and score, well, there's 14 points on the positive. But then there's also the situation where with Iowa's quarterback issues that maybe they get a fumble recovery for Kentucky. So really, I think there's a lot of things. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think this is going to be an absolutely dandy. My fear is Iowa's offense shows up like it showed up against Michigan. It didn't.
Yeah, true that. I agree with all of that you just said, especially the part about, like we've said all video, these two teams are very, very similar. And with that, man, we're going to go ahead and move into some score predictions. Like I say, I know the bowl season is unpredictable. We don't know the mindset. I think the biggest thing in bowl season is the mindset of the players. I know other teams don't like to hear that when they win, but sometimes the players just go. I know for a fact because my nephew played at Louisville, and he told me, depending on what the bowl game was, how the season turned out, what the expectations was, sometimes they just go into the bowl game to get another game in and get the swag bag. So we don't know what the mental state gonna be for these players when they come in. But with that, man, your best guess, what do you think this score is gonna be?
Oh, this one's tough. Do I go with my heart or my head here? I'm not your prototypical one-eyed fan. I don't see it as always my way. I try to be as even as I possibly could. Plus the fact my Army Navy prediction didn't go as well as I wanted it to. I My worry is Iowa's offense will have the issues that they had against Michigan. I think Kentucky does have not as strong a defense as Michigan. So I think Iowa will be able to move the ball. I thought Iowa moved the ball actually a little bit better against Michigan than many people gave them credit for. They didn't capitalize on plays early in the game, which I think might have flipped it. I think Kentucky wins this, but I think it's close. I think this is a 24-21. I don't think it's a super high scoring game. I think if you can get to 17, I think you've got a good shot of winning this football game because again, both teams great defenses, both teams offenses have had their issues at times. I'm just a little bit more confident in Kentucky's offense than I am in Iowa's, but I'm also one of those where it's like, how does Iowa's freshmen take these bowl preps? Do they take these bowl preps as a chance to get better? That Iowa has some weapons. If they can get it out to them and get them into space, then we can kind of see how it's doing. The young kid, Keegan Johnson, who had that incredible play against Minnesota where he swept out of 3 tacklers and got in the end zone. Arlen Bruce, a kid from Nebraska who I think has come on and has done really, really well. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. I think Kentucky wins this one, but I think it's close. I think this comes down to the fourth quarter. I think Will Levis makes a big play late and it helps Kentucky win this. I think 24-21. I know Iowa fans don't get mad at me. I just think I'm gonna say this. I've said this. I think Iowa was a year early. I think next year, keep an eye on the Hawkeyes next year with most of this team coming back. The question was, will Linderbaum come back? I don't think so. But if he does, the entire offensive line is back. The quarterback's back, your fullback's back, your secondary and third running backs with some good running backs in your recruiting class. All of your wide receivers except Tyrone Tracy are back. So your offense is mostly back next season. Well, from a team that progressed a lot this year as the season went on. So keep an eye on the Hawkeyes next year. Even if this year doesn't end the way I think a lot of Iowa fans wanted to, Iowa could be a good team next year. Just keep it quick little heads up there.
Okay. I'm actually on par with what you just said, but one of the reasons why I think Kentucky will win this game is something you said earlier about their athleticism. I think like even down to Will Levis, when the play breaks down, he can get out there, scramble, and make plays. Sometimes I know they have time to prepare, but sometimes, film just doesn't do it justice until you're actually on the field with that kind of athleticism, that kind of speed. I think it's going to be close. I actually think it's going to be like 21-17 Kentucky is what I'm calling right now. So I do think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be probably tied at halftime. It may even be like 7-7. If you're looking for a high scoring game, people out there, this ain't the game. At least just from what I've seen all year, it's not the game you want to tune into. So I think we're both kind of on the same page with a 3 or 4 point victory. May even be a field goal, down at the end to win it all, man. So But we definitely appreciate you coming back on, Coach Hess, man, to talk some football with us, man. Big Iowa fan, living in Iowa. We don't get many fans on here that actually live in the state that they root for the team they root for. So that's big time. What is the Iowa fan base, the ones that you talk to, what have they been saying about this game?
Well, you have the completely nothing but Iowa. There's no way Iowa will lose. I know there's a popular podcast here from some former Iowa players called the Washed Up Walk-Ons, and I don't know if you saw any of the game the Hawks by a million has become a fun chant from that podcast. It's been a fun one. The podcast has blown up because Big E Langston from the WWE, who's a former Iowa Hawkeye, came to the kickoff show where they played Penn State, and he said that moniker, Hawks by a million, and it blew up. It went social media viral. The podcast absolutely loved it. In fact, they got him on after that, which I thought was hilarious. But the fans they're excited. Okay. We've been to Tampa. We've been to Tampa for the Outback Bowl so many years that I think getting Orlando, getting a little bit of a different taste, getting the Citrus Bowl, I think got everybody's happy. Everybody's really excited about this bowl game. Iowa fans travel. I'll tell you this right now. If Kentucky travels like they do for basketball and Iowa fans travel like they do, this is going to be a sold-out stadium. There's not going to be a seat in the house, and it is going to be blue, and it is going to be black and gold. I can tell you that for sure. It is going to be absolutely filled. Orlando, if you're listening to this and you're in Orlando, do not be surprised that there will be a ton of Iowa fans there. They travel. We want to go to Florida. We want to see the games because it's cold here. We don't want to be – a lot of the fans, they don't want to be cold anymore. They want to watch the football down in Florida. And the crazy part about it, little T, is our rivals, Iowa State, will be in the same stadium 3 days earlier playing in the Cheez-It Bowl against Clemson.
Hey, so. A lot of interest. And like you said, Kentucky, the state of Kentucky is cold right now. I know Iowa's even colder. So a chance to get down to Florida. And from what I'm seeing, temperatures of like 70 degrees and up. I know everybody's going to jump on that. So there you have it, folks. The Citrus Bowl between number 15 Iowa and number 22 Kentucky. We want to thank Coach Hess for coming on. Don't forget to check him out on Twitter at SSN, all caps, SSN_Hawkeyes for the Sideline Sports Network Iowa Hawkeyes account where they talk all Iowa sports. So we want to appreciate him. Thank him for coming in today. And this is for Coach Hess and the SSN Hawkeyes account. This is Coach I, the Fanatic, and we are out of here.
Part of my team. I love the fans like they part of my team. Come rock with me. We got it jumping like it's that valley. I call my dogs out the pound. Let's go eat. Turn on the Fanatic. Let's have a debate.